And welcome back to centralcoastradio.com. Well, now we're going to take a look at a brand new crime thriller action film that's in cinemas right now. The man himself, Robert McCall, played by Denzel Washington, is back in the Equalizer 3, and this time he has jumped the ditch and gone across to Italy, where he's hoping for a peaceful life, but not quite the way that it turns out, because he soon finds himself going up against some of Italy's mafia crime bosses in this that they are saying is the last installment in the Equalizer franchise. So, does Mr. McCall go out with a bang? We're going to take a look right now, and we're going to start with Kyle. Kyle, what did you think of the Equalizer 3?
I enjoyed it. I've kind of been a fan of the whole series. It's very much they very much take on the whole episodic format of what I believe the TV show that it's inspired by was kind of the same thing as Incredible Hulk, where every episode he goes to another town, there's some trouble, he solves it, and then rides off. This one has more international flair, as you say, going to the south of Italy, and I thought it was interesting because he's actually gravely wounded right at the start of the movie. He kind of lets his guard down and gets shot in the back, and he's at death's door, and he basically washes up in this small coastal village called Altamonte, which I think is a fictional name because I think they shot around a whole bunch of different places in south of Italy. But it's like a picturesque, beautiful little South Italian village, and it's kind of like a western in that way that it's like this stranger comes into town and kind of sorts out it sorts out their problem. But I I was a little bit let down, I think, by basically he falls in love with the town and he wants to retire because it's kind of like he's letting his guard down. He can't keep doing this forever. And I think that was something that really interested me early on in the story was the idea of maybe this guy, he can't just be this Superman hero for forever. And it would have given it a very good place for them to end the movie, or a very good place for them to end the trilogy, in the way that in the other films it's always just he's basically Superman. There's not a whole lot of tension because you know that he can basically wipe the floor with everybody. There's nothing that they can do to really stand against him. And in this movie, he kind of goes up against the Kimura, which it's funny. I think you said it, Dave. If he wanted to get away from organized crime, probably South Italy wasn't the best place to
Yeah.
choose. And I thought that I don't know. I felt that the script of this one was a lot weaker than the previous two films. This franchise, it's kind of a an outlier in Hollywood because usually filmmakers change, writers change, directors change, but every movie in this franchise has been written by one guy, and every movie in the franchise has been directed by Antoine Fuqua. And I guess I can see Antoine Fuqua's style here. I've been a fan of his since he made The Replacement Killers. I think that was his first feature film. And he's also made movies like Shooter and Olympus Has Fallen, and of course the other Equalizers. And something that I appreciate about his violent action movies is that they all feature this really hardcore action in a brutal and real visceral way. Like the way that he portrays violence in his movies, it's you don't become desensitized to it as you would in something like John Wick. And in the same way, I kind of see this franchise as being something more of a an antithesis to John Wick, whereas like Keanu Reeves is not the greatest of actors, so especially in this most recent, the fourth movie, he was a man of few words, but long, lengthy action sequences. In this movie, it's actually the opposite. Robert McCall actually talks quite a lot because it's Denzel Washington, and when he tells you when he's just calmly explaining to somebody that he's going to tear their throat out, you believe him because he's just such a great actor. And the action scenes themselves are actually kind of a lot more subdued, a lot more pulled back. And I don't know, I think that I was a little bit disappointed in that they didn't. It really does just go back to basics when once he gets his strength back, he's pretty much just wiping the floor with the bad guys again. And I would have liked to have seen maybe him not quite being able to uh he's not quite up to par, and perhaps he needed to inspire the people of Altamonte to stand up for themselves. There is kind of a moment of that in the movie, but it's nowhere near what I thought they were building towards. And in the end, it's just him kicking ass again, and it's cool, but it just felt like a very. I remember I saw the second one with you, David, and the finale of that movie was amazing. It's like this massive showdown in this town that's being ravaged by a hurricane, and that was just an insane, epic conclusion to that film. And this movie, it really did feel like an anticlimax. It felt like there was supposed to be something else in there. I mean, not to mention, this movie also has Dakota Fanning. I just totally forgot about her there while I was talking about the movie because her character is in, uh, so insubstantial to the film. It doesn't really like her character doesn't really matter. There's something going on with international terrorism and drug shipments and stuff, but none of it really matters because the script just never really builds to a satisfying story. So I was a little bit disappointed in it, but I did still enjoy it as a fan of the franchise.
And Harley, what did you think of Equalizer 3?
Yeah, I think I agree on a lot of the points. I hadn't seen any of the previous ones. Um, so going in, I just thought, oh, it's probably just another shoot 'em up action film, not much to speak of. But I actually have to say I really quite liked it. Um, I think I just like the character just of Robert McCall seems to have this really sort of inoffensive, just a likable charm about him, even if he, has moments of just being quite silent, saying a few words. He doesn't come in like the tough guy. He just seems to approach everything in an open way. He's friendly when he gets to this village. He is very quickly accepted because he's just this peaceful guy about town because they don't know his sort of backstory or anything. I do have to agree though that he does seem kind of a little too invincible. Like, except for one point at the start of the movie, he's basically bulletproof. um, yeah, there doesn't seem to be a lot of risk for him. So all the threat gets put onto the people of the village, which you know that becomes kind of the soft spot that we all have to care about. Um, I I do agree that it should have then become more about them kind of standing together, which it does a little bit, but I would then make more of that. If he's someone who inspires the town, just make it a slightly bigger deal rather than just going back into him being invincible and shutting down the threat, no problem. um, but that aside, I think it is just a really well done, like easy to watch movie. It wasn't put off by the violence or anything. It all seemed quite justified. I love the look, the setting, pretty good. But yeah, apart from a few moments of logic, like why you trying to settle down in a kind of country known for organized crime if you're looking to retire, and that kind of strange relationship with the Dakota Fanning character, it really felt like it should have been built up into something bigger. It was feeling like it was being built up, and then it was just kind of like, oh, okay, sure. They didn't really need to be there in the same movie, but I guess it just gave another point of interest. But overall, I have to say, I did really quite enjoy the film.
And Lee, what did you think of Equalizer 3?
I loved it. I love this franchise. Denzel, of course, is a main draw card for watching this film, as is Dakota. But I think her character could have been made more of. I think she was fed a lot of information rather than finding it herself.
I kind of wondered if the reason why Dakota Fanning was chosen for that role was more as a kind of like, this is Denzel Washington bowing out of this franchise, and of course he acted with her 19 years ago.
Could be.
So I kind of wonder whether he asked for her to play that role, as because there's a lot of people talking about Denzel also retiring from Hollywood in the next couple of years too. So
well, he is getting to that age. So, well, we'd like him to be invincible. He is in movies. He's not in real life. So, but yeah, I liked Dakota's character. I just thought it would have been nicer to see her and Denzel's character actually working together a bit more to crack the answers, I guess. Whereas I felt like she was passing on the answers given to her by Robert, the character of Denzel. But yeah, not to say I didn't like her. I felt like the violence seems real, and there were moments where you're like, oh my goodness, like that's really full on violence there. But I do like that it's kind of quick. Like the violence is so quick that it moves on, and then you're like, okay, I can understand why it's happening. It's not a needless violence either. I guess the community.
Yeah, and it's not overly glorified. I mean, it can be brutal, but it's just to the point. He's finishing the situation. Short, sharp. Yeah.
That's it. The scenes don't go on and on and on and on. Where sometimes in action scenes with violence, it's just like, oh my goodness, like surely someone would have died by now. Like,
how many times did Keanu fall down those stairs in that last film?
That was terrible. Oh, the stair scene, it still makes me giggle a little bit.
I mean, he couldn't walk before the stairs, so
he was just done by then. So I did like that it didn't just go on and on. The community was certainly not just threatened but harmed by the mafia, and needed to be freed, I guess. And you do see them come together in certain scenes, which I love. I love that they took care of him as well when he was injured. And I did really like the character of Enzo. I really liked that character, just taking care of Robert. And
I'm glad too that he wasn't just turned into someone who was going to be like sacrificed, because quite often in these movies you have someone who you just like so much like that, who's suddenly going to be held at gunpoint and probably dies for the greater good or something. And I'm glad they didn't do that.
Something.
Yeah, definitely. I guess, within it all, a question is asked of Robert, is he a good man or a bad man, basically? And, he's not sure, because he realizes within himself to do good, he's done evil. I kind of like that storyline coming through, that there's a realization that he has to do bad things to help make the world better, but he doesn't shy away from it either, whereas a lot of people won't get involved in things or that are too hard or put you in danger. And his character is very strong in that regard. He will risk his life. And of course, in the opening scenes, you see he nearly dies because he's willing to always, put his life on the line. To help people, I guess. There's some little lovely moments where you find out he's helping another family in the background. or will be helping them in the future. I won't explain that. I'll let people watch that for themselves. And I really liked just the way the feel of the community really came through. The love for the people, the town people, it was just so evident that they were a really tight community, and that he wanted to be a part of it. Like, you could sense that they all became family. And so there was a huge, commitment to protecting each other in the end. I liked the scenery for sure. I think the setting of this movie was lovely. I felt like at times that when they were in the little cafes, there's a lot of sitting in cafes and talking and having coffee or tea or cakes or whatever. But that's where people interact. And like, I really felt like at times that we were in one of the little restaurants on Lygon Street. It had that same feel to it. And it just made me feel like I was part of the movie, because I was like, I want to go down to Lygon Street now and go into a little restaurant.
I want to go.
You'd have to go up and down lots of steps, apparently.
Yeah, I know. Lots of steps.
I want to go to where they filmed it. That place is on my bucket list now. It looks amazing.
Beautiful. So
it looks amazing. It was such a great thing to watch. Yeah.
It was so beautiful. You get scenes of the water, you get the little cafes, you get, the old buildings of the town and the church right up the top. So there was that spiritual element attached to it as well. And so, I just thought it was such a beautiful movie within an action and violent movie. But I walked out being really inspired by it, and I thought I would watch this again. I really enjoyed myself. I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah, I'm in the same. I kind of like the fact that it feels like Antoine Fuqua not only went to Italy to film this film, but he's also embraced Italian cinema in a sense. There was a very European feel to this film,
definitely,
rather than the Hollywood kind of action crime thrillers that we've seen over the years. And I love the fact that they made this so natural. Even the violence in this feels natural. Like a few of you have said already that like you watch John Wick and you kind of know you're watching an action film. I love John Wick, but it does feel like you're watching an action film because the stunts and the sequences are all over the top. Whereas in this one, it's more like if Robert's going to end someone's life, he'll do it quickly with a bullet. Like and yeah, like we'll try not to ruin anything, but there's another sequence in there where like when he finally starts to go at these guys, and it's like, wow, that happened so quickly. I think that gives a really natural element to it. And also the cinematography and the direction here, where if somebody's walking upstairs, the camera will stay with them and stuff like that. It really does make you feel like you're there next to the characters. And I think that really, really enhances this film, because if you go back and reflect on the plot of this film, it's pretty light on. So making the audience feel like they're there actually enhances that and gets over the fact that the screenplay and the plot is pretty light. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I think Denzel Washington, as normal in the acting department, does what he has to do and does it well. I didn't mind so much about Dakota Fanning, because like I said before, I think that was more because Denzel wanted to work with her again, because he worked with her when she was a little girl, and it's kind of like a rounding out his career kind of thing. So yeah, I think that was, when you look at it that way, it was kind of touching. I thought like you guys said too, about bringing in some of the characters from the town and making them characters that you like Angelo the fish guy. You only see him in a few scenes, but you like him. The same with the local cop. It's like,
yes,
you've keeps getting beaten up and assaulted
Yeah.
by
The poor guy, he's like getting the punishment for everything that goes wrong in the town.
I wanted to be violent for him. I wanted to save him.
Yeah.
As an audience member, I'm like, I want to save him.
Yeah, because it's like he's trying to
which makes you want to see, Denzel's character take action. It's like,
Yes.
please stick up for them. Please help them out.
Yeah.
But I do worry that, after, we see trouble with Angelo, the fish guy, early on, which sort of starts to set things in motion. We don't really see him and his wife after that very much.
Mm.
Like they're there, but it's like you kind of want
Like-
to see
So-
something resolved for them, I guess.
It's like they're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
once they're not relevant to the plot, it just kind of moves
Yeah.
on from them. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of like that they make that cop likable and that he is the one guy that feels like he's standing up to the Gomorrah. So yeah, I really did like that element to it. Like the villagers are there and they're part of the story, and the village itself is part of the story. So I really did like that. And I think this is actually my favorite of the franchise, just because I like European cinema so much that I like that element to this film. I guess to wrap up, what are we all going to give this one out of 5, Kyle?
I'm gonna give this 3 out of 5. I just did feel I was a little bit let down by the story, and I didn't think that it really built up to an impressive finale. But as you guys say, I think it was mostly filmed around Campania, Italy. The locations were just beautiful, and like the cinematography in the movie was really beautiful. But yeah, I just thought that the script needed a little bit extra work.
Harley, what are you giving it out of 5?
Yeah, look, apart from those little points of could have done a little bit extra here and there. Yeah, mostly with the script or whatever. Everything else about it, I loved. I was quite surprised, not expecting to like it so much. So I'm going to give it at least 3.5.
Lee?
I'm giving it 4 out of 5.
And I'm giving it 3.5 out of 5 as well. So there we go. That is our wrap up of the Equalizer 3. It's in cinemas now and it's on general release, so it should be showing at a cinema near you. Check your local cinema guides. You're on centralcoastradio.com.